What's going on, everybody? My name is Terminus, and today we're gonna react to Made in Abyss episode 9. Yeah, I do have a few things that I want to talk about. It's not a lot, to be honest, because we've gone through some very interesting discussions the last couple of episodes, and I do really think that oftentimes you just need a little bit more material to kind of just go into the details. I don't want to over-explain things, but I have a few points here. The first thing that I want to note is that, in my opinion, like from what I've seen, and I do think I can actually put up something that will more or less show that very well to you, because we do have it in the intro actually. Now let me actually go to episode 8 before I spoil myself. We do look at the intro. A lot of the things, the structures in the Abyss do seem to me like they do resemble human faces and human structures very well, even if they're actually not meant as human structures. We do have the thing with, yeah, right here. Give me a sec. I need to actually put it up here. We do have this, in the intro, this forest, which kind of, this little house hut in the forest looks like a human face that is kind of in, I don't know, in shock, in agony, in something, right? And we do also have other structures that are similar to that, such as the treehouse that we did. The treehouse that we did visit for the first time with Ozen in it, like the seeker station that we saw when episode I don't know, maybe it was episode 6. We'll have to see that. It's right now we're on the screen, right? I don't know if this is in episode 6 or 7, but the seeker station looks a lot like a face if you look at it. Wait, I should actually have a thumbnail from that, because I thought it was a really good like cool thumbnail to put in, but I didn't end up using it actually, because it's yeah, I don't know, I picked another one which was really cool. But I did think it had a really neat thumbnail. Right here, right? It kind of looks like a human face in this shape with the 2 eyes, and we do have the I think there's a better angle for this where it looks even more like it, but it looks like a kind of weird anthropomorphic human being, or some kind of ant, like from Lord of the Rings or something similar. So I do wonder, first of all, this kind of phenomenon of humans detecting human-like faces or specific structures with meaning. First of all, that thing that humans do, right? We do detect a lot of patterns in things that don't necessarily mean something. It's called pareidolia. And humans often encounter it when they see some like clouds up in the sky, for example, seeing animals in them or human faces or whatever. And that is a very interesting thing, because it's also functional for us, right? We do have to detect patterns in nature in order to orient ourselves, in order to inform what our actions from now on are going to be and how we're going to react to the thing that's coming towards us. This kind of phenomenon is very common in visual stimuli, because we humans are a very visual species. We do have a lot of visual processing going on in general, but you also do see it in auditory and sensation kind of things, where you do detect patterns that are not necessarily there. But especially in visual, and especially when it comes to like detecting faces in things, because humans are... That's a thing you get taught very early in psychology. Humans are kind of experts when it comes to detecting human faces, right? And they have to, because for their social interactions, we are a very social species. We have to very quickly identify if somebody is a friend or if somebody is a foe, if somebody means us harm, or if there's something they're not telling us, right? and these expressions, we are very quick and very good at detecting them in humans. Interestingly enough, obviously not in others. Well, I say obviously, but it's not always that obvious, right? Not necessarily in other species as much. And so you can kind of get to the point where we do have our pets or cats or dogs or whatever, and we do misidentify specific expressions that they have as positive or negative, despite them maybe not being that way necessarily. So there is some difficulty here. There's even like specific mental or neurological issues that relate to that sense of detecting faces and detecting how we do show facial expressions, and people who are unable to do that or who misidentify very often. That can be a real problem if you think about it in human interactions. But it's a very interesting thing for sure, and we also have this theme of mind and matter in the abyss kind of being related, and I do wonder if, on the other hand, if this is not pareidolia, but if it is in some shape or form maybe the mind of the inhabitants of the abyss, or the mind of the humans that live around and in the abyss, influencing the environment in a way that it shapes kind of like human structures, like human known patterns, like human faces, right? Human emotions. You do have the excited or surprised emotions, the surprised Pikachu face, if you want to, of that treehouse, and you do have the seeker station that kind of looks like a weird professor or observer kind of tree creature. Obviously, this can just all be an artistic choice, and I'm way off, but it's still very interesting to speculate about this, because it's pretty cool as a design, and you could do so much with it narratively as well as on a social psychological level. But yeah, I think that is pretty much the topic I wanted to discuss. We do have the topic of mind and matter. We still have that. We last episode we did end on Reg and Rico being at the edge of the fall. The fall? Was it called the fall? I don't. The Great Fault. Exactly. The Great Fault, which is like a 4,000 kilometers cliff straight down, which is no, it's a 4,000 meters cliff straight down. Me again with my distances, which is extremely long, right? And we do seem to have very little to go on there. That maybe we have to climb a great distance of that. I did suspect in the beginning when we talked about this some way back, I did actually suspect that there is some kind of structure within those cliffs, because I don't think if there wasn't, we wouldn't have the kind of habitat that the abyss, like we wouldn't have any proper ecosystem. We do see creatures in this image here. We do see we are right here, right? We're at the edge of like the Great Fault, and this is the secret camp here. I don't even know. I don't think you're gonna see my my arrow, which is kind of shitty, but. At 3,000 meters, we do have the secret camp with the inverted forest, and then we go down, and the interesting thing is it gets narrow a bit, and that means that a lot of creatures that we could encounter in there are very powerful, because we do know from previous exposition that the force field, like where the force field is the strongest, which is in the middle, is where where species are the strongest and the most dangerous. Interestingly enough, I do kind of still not completely get the logic of the observatory in the inverted forest, because if you think about it, and some people have said that in the comments, we'll get to that in a minute or something like that, that the force field kind of also prevents people from just looking down into the abyss and seeing what's down there. Which, in my opinion, kind of is weird, because isn't the observatory built right further away from the actual force field in order to be able to look in and look closer at what we're looking at, because while you're in the force field, you can't look that far because that is the effect of the force field. Or am I misunderstanding that? And the only thing the seeker camp is actually doing is look at the forest itself, which obviously isn't part of the force field. It's kind of growing away from the force field. And they can't actually look deeper into the abyss. I mean, I know you can't look straight down, obviously, because you would have to be in the middle. But if you're a little bit further off and then you look at like a down angle and kind of see parts of what's down there. So I do really wonder how that works exactly with the force field. If it's actually you're inside and you can't look further, but you're outside and you can look in as much as you can technically look. Or if it's actually you can't look a long distance into the force field no matter where you're at, in which case the seeker camp's advantages aren't as much or aren't as high as I did think they actually were. But that aside, we do have various creatures being shown here, like at the 4,000 to 5,000 meter depth. We have this giant worm on the card and like some bird kind of like creatures. So my suspicion here is that the Great Fault is a cliff straight down, but also that it has probably a lot of tunnel structures, as I think I mentioned it in an earlier episode. And it kind of... I'm really excited to see how that works, because I absolutely love Hollow Knight, and Hollow Knight kind of has this kind of structure where you're going deeper and deeper, and then you have tunnels and whatnot, and it's getting claustrophobic and weird, and you have all kinds of strange creatures that you encounter that never see the surface, never see daylight or the sea or whatever, right? Because we are, in some way, we are connected to the sea, obviously, as well. With like what we said with Seeker Camp, that the tree that Seeker Camp is kind of put into is the roots are so long, so far reaching that they actually reach the sea and pull the nutrients out of there. But yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting thing. But before we start the episode, I actually do want to do some common spotlights, because we've been going for around 5 episodes now on like YouTube on public. The 5th episode is the last one, which is kind of public, so I want to do that and look at what people are actually writing. So for that, we can just kind of get the comments on the screen and see what people are writing. We do have 41 comments, holy shit, on well, some of those are mine, like answering people, but on episode 1 and 2, great to see you're starting the series. They're interesting concept if you know where to exactly. Like, I do totally agree. There's so much interesting stuff, and I'm pretty sure that this series is not gonna play on all of them and explain all of them or go deeper into them. But the mere fact that we have so much to technically talk about, to pick up, to look at, there's so many possibilities for where the narrative could go, but also so many possibilities for what we can actually talk about as an audience and just keep the conversation going from what we want to do, right? By the way, there's some Made in Abyss content on like the recommended line. I'm totally ignoring that, okay? I'm just closing my eyes. I don't want to know it. I know autosave are reacting to it, so I'm used to kind of ignoring the thumbnails. If I go onto a channel, I'm like, okay, let me see ReZero reaction, great. But no, I ain't looking at that Made in Abyss stuff. So yeah, it's possible that I sometimes get spoiled on a visual design or two, but it's totally out of context. I don't read the titles. Yeah, let's take a look. Enjoyed the discussion about how characters have come to where they are in terms of beliefs and decisions. Yeah, that is also always very interesting to see. On the one hand, how much thought an author actually puts into that and how much gets revealed down the line, but also the speculation of if this were kind of a real life scenario, and we do assume that the people here are mentally similar or the same as people here in real life on Earth, whatever. What would be the cause for them having this motivation or that motivation? What would be their reaction in this situation? What kind of personality are they, and how can we define how they will react in a certain situation? I mean, this is all psychologists' work, right? This is what we do. If we're not looking for, like, if we're not looking to help people with mental issues and trying to diagnose them and see how we can help them, we are looking at how we can prevent those mental issues from occurring in the first place. We look at how we can educate and raise up kids that are growing up healthy, how we can change our social systems in a way to accommodate most people and enable them to live a relatively satisfying life and find their way in life. And we're trying to help people find a job that they are kind of inclined towards or that would be interested in. There's a lot of psychologists working like job assessment centers or whatever we're looking at. Like, I don't know, students are coming to know, like, okay, I don't know what to do with my life, right? And then you do some tests and see what they're inclined towards and what their motivations are and what their interests are, and you're trying to suggest to them a path that they could try out and see if that's something for them. At least here in Europe, that's very common. We are always looking at how people react to certain situations and what brought them there, right? What put them in the place they're in now. If they're in a bad place, how can we prevent that? If they're in a good place, how can we replicate that? The concept of the abyss itself, what its existence means and how it affects the inhabitants in terms of reaction along the literal effects the abyss plays on you, something I would really like to hear more from you. I mean, I'm trying to keep it up. It's very straining, I want to say. Not I mean, it's a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but obviously keeping up a certain level of discussion is always really hard to do, because there is fields where I'm very good in, where I have read a lot of shit, and there's fields where I haven't. So I have to read myself into it, be like, okay, what is this concept again? Okay, I had this. How is the current research on that? And it will not always be accurate. I'm sorry to say that, but don't take my word as gospel. Just because I'm a Psych student who is now has done this for a couple of years now, so I'm somewhat experienced in psychology, but most of my knowledge, I would like to say, is more informal, which means I do have a general feeling of how things are supposed to be. I do have a general idea of the concepts, right, of certain theories in certain fields and how we're looking upon research in general, but I couldn't just free-form tell you about a lot of these concepts, because a lot of that comes later in the master's degree, and it also comes after that, even when you're doing like your further training as a therapist and whatnot. Then I could probably tell you real details about like clinical psychology and therapy, and even like anonymous, of course, example cases of like, I had a patient who was like this, I had a patient who was like this. Again, obviously you need to be anonymous with that. It's very important to keep up the privacy of the clients and to make sure that the people that you encounter, that they can trust you with their information, and that this doesn't get out in some way, and that they can't be identified. But beyond that, if you have vague details, it can be like you change names, you change genders, you or don't mention the genders, you obscure them, you whatever, right? And you can tell a little bit something out of like your own personal experience, but a lot of that comes later when you go deeper into the material itself. Obviously the university, especially the bachelor's degree and even the master's degree after that, is mainly there to get you all the knowledge base that you need, all the knowledge that you generally need to get like a very good feeling for what's right and what's wrong, not from a moral sense, but what's right and what's wrong in terms of like what you're looking at, to get a feeling of, oh, this could be related to this, let me look further into that. And the job in the end is a lot more about just having a good feeling for what you're supposed to do, rather than having all of this knowledge inside there just ready to go immediately. I do think like a couple of you are probably watching Psychologist Ed, and he has a lot of very good know-how. As you can see, like he's already done his master's degree. He is a therapist at this point, and he has that know-how, right? He has that experience. He has that. He's always quoting the same theories, which are probably the theories that are used the most in his specific field of work, that are kind of quoted the most, that are kind of looked at the most, at least from like from a perspective of somebody who doesn't want to go in deep immediately, but just looks generally and kind of tries to pinpoint where he wants to go down the line. That is very important to know these, but to go further into the research, you obviously have to keep up kind of with the knowledge base and kind of like do some seminars on whatever every year to keep up. That's even, I don't know if it's that way in America, but in many countries it is your duty as a therapist to do so, to keep up to date in terms of what therapy research has been showing and whatnot. But obviously, the nitty-gritty details, you need to work yourself into them. But I'm trying to keep up that energy. I'm trying to keep up that analytical spirit. And I also do think, though, that sometimes it's just nice to not go too deep and just talk about interesting narrative things, or be excited about that kind of piece of animation you really like, or that design that you like. Because I do think that variation matters in this context. I'm mainly here to just kind of entertain you guys, to talk about interesting things with you guys, but also to get you guys to or girls, guys or girls. I know most people who are watching like anime reactions are guys, but there's some girls among you. But to get you to think about these concepts more deeply, or maybe look something up that interests you personally sometime, and just be more aware of how psychology plays in every little aspect of our lives in general. I like the way you explain it. Thank you. I'm trying my best. This is all a crapshoot at this point. That you point out, lack of internal monologues from Rico. Yeah, multiple characters have internal narration while Rico does not. Who did I hear aside from Reg who had internal monologue? I can't remember somebody straight from the head, so I don't know if that's like future information. I mean, we do have the memory flashes of Ozen. I don't know, but yeah, we did know. Like, I did notice that Rico does not have any internal monologue so far, and I would expect that this remains the same. So we are kind of supposed to put ourselves into the shoes of Reg more than Rico. Rico too, of course, if you emphasize heavily with her specific situation, but also Reg, which is very interesting because we're setting ourselves into the point of view of the character who has lost his memory. So in a way, that's kind of a short, very convenient way for us to even relate more to him, because we don't have all that much knowledge of the Abyss and where Reg or Rico or whatever came from either. We don't have any human relations in here. So it's very easy to put yourself into a character that is very fresh to all of this, knows the general concepts of the world, obviously, but is very fresh to this. We do have the same in a lot of video games, if I remember correctly, and I think that was one of the best decisions they ever made. CD Projekt Red on the development of The Witcher 1 decided to go ahead and just put their own narrative as almost like a fan fiction kind of deal, as being chronologically after all the events that happened in the books. And then they went like, okay, how do we justify the exposition that people are getting within this game, and how do we make it feel more natural? And the way to do this is literally, okay, you lost your memory, right? You're this badass kind of guy apparently, but you lost your memory, you lost a decent amount of your skills. You need to kind of regain that, and this is a journey of finding yourself. And right, we have the same here, right? The journey of finding ourselves. I do want to talk about the hero myth a little bit, but not this episode. I think either next episode or even the episode after, we're going to look a little bit into the hero myth and how I do feel about that in regards to I don't know that much about it. I just know the basics, right? The basic theory of the hero's journey, if you want to. But we're gonna look into that and how it relates to Rico and Reg and what my thoughts are on that. The whole thing is just remember if there made theories a few months back. I will not get into why I don't looking to prove more. Yeah, right. I mean, I do appreciate you guys not spoiling me on things. That is very, very cool of you, and I mean, it makes the reactions better too, right? Because if there's some crazy shit like time dilation last time, I really loved that. It was like, holy shit. I mean, it makes so much sense, but you couldn't foresee that in that capacity, of course. I mean, somebody might have, right? Thanks for the sub. I think no one of the OST. Yeah, I mean it's definitely Kevin Penkin's best work so far, but I do hope that it's not his last work, and I do hope that his future works are going to be really great, because I do think he has a lot of talent, and he has a very unique way of creating OSTs that fits very well with whatever. I mean, it was such a hard thing for me to find a track that kind of is cool for the discussion format. I don't know if you guys like it, but let me know if you like the track that's playing on, like, when I'm discussing shit, because I really like to have some kind of track in the background that people can listen to and don't just hear my voice, but you hear a little bit something soothing that's not too excited, not too depressing, something that's kind of just, and something that needs to fit, right? I did find something that fits somehow, but obviously it doesn't hold a candle to what Kevin Penkin is doing for this soundtrack. I will definitely try to analyze all the characters going forward. Ozen is was very interesting. I did a little bit on Marok. There wasn't that much to go into, just the relations, and very interesting the connection between him and Reg and how they hit it off immediately based on those little intricacies. Really like that. Also really like how we're making a lot of close connections and have to separate them again and again. It's kind of a story of life, right? I mean, also the hero's journey, but also a story of life. You do meet people that you really, really love, but you do have your dreams, you do have your goals, you do have things that you want to accomplish, and then maybe you go your separate ways at some time, and you hope you can keep up, or you hope you meet them again and nothing happened to them down the line, because you really like them, you liked spending time with them. So there's a lot of interesting things here that I really like. I've certainly heard some people that they did not watch it because it looks like it's made for kids. Yeah, I think the art style kind of puts you off, not just because made for kids, because as somebody noted, there is actually an animator or an artist who worked on Ghibli who did this who worked on Made in Abyss as well, and you can kind of see some of the similarities. I mean, I'm sure that there's many reasons why this art style was chosen. It was the source material, right? But you can kind of see that there's definitely that maybe somebody who worked on Studio Ghibli films would definitely enjoy picking this up and kind of have a talent for making it their own, or putting their own spin on it, or kind of adopting it very well. But yeah, the art style is definitely one thing that kind of throws you out. I think that there's similar series like Girls Last Tour, which I haven't seen, by the way, which I do know that the art style people are like, I don't know what to do with it, because that's the problem if you come in like hyper abstracted stuff like GV representation. Sometimes there can be really good stuff in there, but on the other hand, the more something is abstracted from reality and the less detail you have. There's also, right, we talked about MacLeod and this whole effect about masking, but I think it can go too far, and then you're starting to kind of lose interest low-key. But the environments definitely always fascinate me about Made in Abyss. So there's just one thing that I really, right, that kind of pulled me, and I'm like, this mystery, the environment, Lovecraftian, okay, this is something that could really be cool if it's done right. And so far it's definitely done right. Right? You have this great balance between foreboding, darker themes overlaid with like the the hopeless, naive optimism of Rico, and Rek is kind of in between there and is worrying too much all the time. Has a hard time making decisions, as we found out last time. But yeah, great setup in general. I suggest you also watch Steins Gate. Oh, sorry, Okinawa. I answered you, but I already watched Steins Gate. It's a great series. Like, I really loved the original Steins Gate. Zero was kind of 50-50 on Zero. There are parts I really liked, and then there are parts I didn't like all that much. But the original Steins Gate, in my opinion, is almost a series that is perfect as it is enclosed. I mean, near perfect. It's one of the few stories that really involved heavy time travel and was really cool as well. Like, didn't have that many narrative inconsistencies, in my opinion. At least within the universe. Obviously, there's a lot of things where when you're starting out, you're like, what the fuck? This doesn't make sense. A microwave? What? Right? Pseudoscience. But as soon as you accept that pseudoscience and just accept that it exists and this is how it works, the consistency of the narration itself and how the plot develops and how it all loops back is really cool, and it's one of my favorite series to date. Including the characters and the soundtrack, because the characters are just what makes the series great. This series isn't a series that's like highly scientific. It's just something that's kind of awakening your interest and excitement about science, and recognizing concepts of science and just being involved in this scientific world. But also what really carries the show is the character interactions, the chemistry, the way the voice actors express this is why I definitely 100% recommend the sub for. I mean, I recommend the sub for most things, but there are things where the dub is more than okay, where I'm like, okay, if somebody doesn't really want to read or can't read that fast, it's okay to use the dub. But most of the time, I recommend the sub, and in this case especially because the voice actors deliver it so well, and you do feel that emotion, that chemistry, that interplay, that from moment one. Yeah, there's so much going on, and the crazy level of details is insane. Yeah, I can imagine that it takes several months to get a chapter out for the mangaka. I can't imagine how it is to design these crazy environments. It's insane. Not only just from like just a skill perspective, but also the art direction and how to place it. You have to know a lot about how to place a shot, how to make a picture interesting, to how to include the detail and how much detail to include. And it's insane what goes into making a very good manga, especially one that has such detailed environments as this one. Yeah, I mean the orphanage, for-profit philosophy on the orphanage, they do need to make money somehow. That makes sense. And most of them want to grow up to be, want to be growing up to be cave raiders, which is kind of like Blood Realm does liken it to wanting to become an astronaut as a kid here, and I do agree kind of, but I also think that's kind of a little bit indoctrination, right? Everything in this town and in this country, in this island, seems to be obsessed with the abyss, and it almost seems an unnatural, unhealthy kind of obsession. But beyond that, there's also the moral gray areas of profiting from the potential endangerment and death of not only people in general, but kids, right? And putting these ideas in their heads. Yeah, Rek's inner thoughts. Rico is a scientist. We did have that. Yeah, okay, so the torture room might have been there before the orphanage was a thing, and they just didn't care to remove all the torture shit. I mean, okay, that still kind of spells neglect to me, in my opinion, but it is what it is. I mean, it's orphanage stuff. Orphanages aren't really known for being very careful about right? I mean, there's more than enough terrible orphanages out there in the world. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she like Rico seeing Reg as a pet, which is very interesting. We are at the point now when we past all these episodes, especially episode 5 is public now, and we do see that Rico has a very hard time to regard Reg as anything but a robot. She doesn't see him that way, and it creates this interesting interaction where Reg is really embarrassed about certain things, and Rico doesn't really get it and doesn't even pick up on the fact that Reg is surprised or confused or whatever about her not regarding him that way. So Reg definitely does seem to have an infatuation with Rico from the get-go, which to me, I wonder if this is due to his history in the Abyss and possibly with Liza, or if they just clicked from the beginning on, right? But Reg does see himself as a human, which makes for an interesting disconnect between him and people in general. Yeah, leader Zero, we found that out. Also, it's where he's in his mid-20s, right? It's very, very hard to kind of pin down ages of characters in this art style. I did say, I think 1 episode ago or something, that was pretty young when she got Rico. I do still believe that, but it's very hard to tell how young or old she was. Yeah, very interesting comments in general. There was some audiovisual desync. If you did notice that, I'm sorry. If you didn't, then great. I hope it's fixed now. I did change some of my settings. Yeah, this should be fun. i3 or 𝐈𝐦𝐩𝐿 is one of the mods in one of the servers I'm in, and also a really nice guy. Yeah, I mean, it's been fun so far, right? I mean, I'm sure there's terrible moments but even those are fun, right? Because it's entertainment, because it's media. We do enjoy those. I mean, look at Game of Thrones Red Wedding. People were like all crazy about it. I mean, they hated the narrative of it, but they were like, holy shit, this is a monumental moment. People are kind of excited. I talked about it in like my Shingeki no Kyojin reaction, where I said people are excited about creation but also about destruction. There's some kind of glee in there when it comes to destroying things yourself and as a way of gaining control, but also watching things being destroyed is kind of fascinating on a level. So I'm sure that the dark themes of this anime will shock me as well. But I'm also sure that they will be very fascinating and make for a lot of interesting discussions. Stringing people up has a different context. You're pulling someone up or putting effects on the Abyss on them to a degree. Still very questionable. Yeah, I do agree, but also the naked thing. Like, there's no reason to put somebody up naked, right? They feel the effects of the Abyss if they're naked or not. So this is the most questionable thing I feel about this, right? Because you're humiliating someone in the process as well. Which, especially children, that's, holy shit, that's fucked. Anyway, episode 3, a little bit less comments because it's not been that long, but I'm really glad that people are enjoying these reactions. Thank you, Papillon Rogue. And we do have somebody who actually cleared up that, especially in some of the official material, that Nat is specifically described as he couldn't follow the girl he loved. And in retrospect and watching that again, I've seen, I think, Thibaut's reaction to it, and I've seen it on my own as well. Yeah, I can see the signs, okay? They're here. I didn't pick up on them. That's just what happens sometimes. Also, I didn't want to assume, right? Sometimes you go into a series and you're like, this is a thing, this is a thing, this is a thing, this is a thing. I don't want to go in and assume that immediately. I want to take a step back and be like, okay, maybe it could be something else. Keep an open mind for alternate interpretation. That kind of just led me to, for example, when we talked about Ozen and how she possibly could have had feelings for Liza, that is a possibility, the way this the scenes are sad definitely puts that connotation on it, especially how she is somewhat jealous or mad at Torka, not only for dying and leaving Liza alone, but also for just, right, when you see her face when she gets introduced to him and get told that they actually married and whatnot. But also it can be other interpretations as well, right? She is very close to her disciple, and now there's somebody else who might be even more important in her life, and then she's obviously mad when he dies. That's also a perfectly natural reaction. First you take her away from me, and then you leave yourself. You're not there anymore, and now I have to shoulder that burden on my own, which is a hard thing to do. Main Abyss could also refer to Rico herself. Yeah, that is true. We talked about that she is also made in the Abyss technically. But I think since we're seeing this through also the inner perspective, the inner thought and monologue of Reg, it could be more, I mean, it could be both, okay? It's a cool title, and it refers to a lot of things that are in this series. Wouldn't surprise me if I was aware of linguistic origins of the term he chose. Yeah, I mean, that's often the case. That we do have mangaka very aware of that, because obviously they're creating a work of art, they're doing narration, they're double checking, right? And when they feel creative, they include things that they really thought out, or that they have like an affinity towards. For example, a lot of Japanese authors seem to have an affinity for German words. I don't know if it's the way they sound or if it's like some common history. Germany and Japan has some common history, both in terms of conflict and in terms of being allies in World War II, for example. But also we do have all of these little islands that used to belong to Germany as colonies that Japan took in World War I that might have rubbed off in some way culturally, right? And they might have been exposed to some interesting German words, and then a fascination starts at some point. It doesn't have to start immediately. There can be 100, 200 years down the line, you can start to be like, okay, this is a cool thing, and then somebody makes it popular, right? Some author or some creator, some creative mind puts it out in a work of art that is very popular, and then people start to pick up on it and be interested in it. And I do definitely think that German sounds a lot different to Japanese, so there's a very interesting I mean, it's very interesting phonetically, as much as Japanese is very interesting for me personally. Cool, nice. Episode 4, we did kind of go into the forest and whatnot. The mushroom forest in World of Warcraft was called Sangarmash. That's true. It's been a long time since I played WoW. Love this anime. We watched it 5 times. I mean, I probably wouldn't rewatch it 5 times, but I definitely see myself rewatching this. It's not as niche, yeah. It was anime of year 2017, but it's still underappreciated. I can see that. The art style and also just, I don't know, a lot of series are coming out every year, and there's just a lot of big hitters here among them, right? So sometimes the really intricate, interesting series are going under because people don't really realize or are fascinated with it until way later down the line, when through word of mouth and people just critically praising this anime, people are like, all right, I'm gonna cave, I'm gonna watch it. But yeah, most don't catch on that the curse only affects people when they ascend the abyss. Yeah, that's a thing I actually misunderstood in the beginning. I thought it was also going down, and apparently that was just Rico being very exhausted from all the things they done, because so far she's just done normal cave raids, and now they went on this giant descent, and there's a lot of climbing to do and a lot of running and a lot of whatnot, right? And at that point she was pretty exhausted, and that makes sense to me. The force field seems to direct sunlight downwards. very interesting concept, how that works out. Also very interesting that it directs sunlight downwards, but when we are up there and look down, all we see is a dark chasm. So I do assume that might also be an effect of the force field, like how we got to know that the force field is actually obscuring our view further into the abyss, and that the further you away from it, the more you can maybe observe. So again, still very iffy on how that works. And yeah, only red whistles are forsaken when they're down in the forest of temptation or further down, which makes sense because other whistles would be more experienced and might be very closer to that depth already, or might have passed that depth, so they wouldn't be abandoned, of course. It's just not worth to search for somebody who is basically being very reckless and more or less almost killing themselves with what they're doing. And then we have the last one, which is episode 5. Great moment to have on your reels. You were so engrossed in the show that you forgot to write down anything. Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing about this is it's not just that I forgot to write down anything. It's just that there's so many thoughts in my head as well that I can talk about, that I can just expand. Like, I could talk for 3 hours just based on the content of the first 8 episodes of Made in Abyss, and I wouldn't even be halfway done. And I can do that from the top of my head mostly. I need a couple of keywords sometimes, but most of the time I didn't write anything down. But if I do the discussion right after, which 90% of the time I do, I have so much to talk about that I don't even have to write down that much, which is insane. Obviously, I didn't make the conscious decision in this way. It was basically flow, right? Being so engrossed in something that I didn't realize it. But it's even without that, it's amazing how much is just making its way into the greases of my brain to stay there and come back to me, like the meme where you lie in your bed and then your brain tells you something and you're wide awake. All right, the force field is a known phenomenon on the surface. Yeah. Rec is also unofficially a red whistle. No, I mean, I don't know when I said that, actually, Blood Realm. I don't even remember having said that, to be honest. Like, I definitely mean that he has been officially a red whistle, so... yeah, 10 meters is an extreme thing, right? I mean, 10 meters is high, but just going 10 meters up and you're immediately affected this strongly by the abyss is... yeah, it's a real risk. It almost seems like the abyss just wants to swallow everything up and keep it down there. Yeah, okay, Rec has an amazing sense of smell. We did kind of get the, like, we saw that mentioned in episode 2, I think, when they were going to the wharf and he immediately was able to smell whatchamacallem, Nat. Yeah, okay. The hyper beam, we do have the red stripes. Yeah, I did figure out that there's like that they're part of his skin, artificial skin, whatever. I don't know. I mean, technically it could be a design choice, obviously, but also I was wondering if they have some kind of extra functionality that we can see down the line. The main theme is called The First Layer. Look it up, people. Listen to it from the official source. It's a great soundtrack, and it's amazing whenever like the main sound kicks in. The only thing that's not amazing about that is copyright, because then I have to kind of just put it all the way down or mute it entirely, so you guys can actually enjoy my my amazement and my enjoyment of the soundtrack. But if you sync up your own episode or you watch a picture-in-picture or whatever, I think that's not a problem and you should be fine. I don't stop the recording in general, so I was thinking about for the more problematic series, like I had a lot of copyright issues with Frieren. I might just do a timer reaction so you can sync it up. It's not the best, I guess. It's just editing is, first of all, it's a lot of work to edit. It takes like 2 or 3 hours to edit these together. And time reactions are like, I don't know, 20 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And also, right? You have to constantly cut something out, render it again, re-upload. It takes a lot of time and effort to keep those up. So I'm wondering if I want to do timer reactions down the line for something like this. But either way, I do appreciate all of you are enjoying this. And aside from the soundtracks and whatever, I'm trying to include all the moments that I was very interested in or surprised at. But sometimes something's gonna get cut out. If I'm being too aggressive with cutting, it also feels wrong. So if that's ever the case, just let me know, and I can look at it again, take a mental note, and be like, okay, this is maybe a little bit too much. But if you guys are enjoying it, great. People apparently hypothesized 𝐲𝐶 and 𝐷𝐢𝐏, that's her name apparently, I don't know how to pronounce it, that they might be related, and apparently she was a delver, but she screwed up her knees. Fair enough, right? I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow to the knee. Kind of deal. But yeah, I wonder if she comes up later, if there's some, or if she's just like side character that got introduced and now maybe in some side content or extra fan content there's some chapters on her, but that's about it. I mean, you can't take them all with you. You can't give everybody the same amount of screen time. First of all, it wouldn't be all that interesting because a lot of people would be like, but I like this character, I want to know more about them. And if you split it equally, you're gonna lose people. Obviously, you don't have infinite funds as well, so a good narrative structure is very important. Knowing who your main characters are, knowing who your main supporting cast is, and then knowing who is actually side character that can sometimes, if you have some details about them that you personally like, but you're like, okay, I can't kind of fit that in, so I'm putting it into an extra chapter, but this character is not involved that much. I mean, yeah, we talked about the scenes a little bit, especially in episode 5 when we did have that scene where Riko was mostly naked. I do know the manga has some extra chapters which are kind of weird, but you know, I'm just mainly keeping my hands off of that debate because it's not really cleared one way or the other, so we're just gonna treat it as is on the screen. If there's anything that's really not okay in my opinion, I'm gonna state that. I'm gonna maybe even discuss it a little bit, but aside from that, it's been pretty much super okay so far. So, and also very cute, right? Like Reg and Riko, kind of like Reg being embarrassed around Riko and Riko not realizing because she's like, oh no, it's a robot, right? Which makes sense for who she is, how she acts, and what kind of personality she has. Yeah, the maid design, very interesting. Obviously, a pure maid wouldn't fit into the Abyss, and I really appreciate that they gave her more like an adventurer look as well. So it's kind of a mix of both. You find the best of both worlds. You still have the nerdy Japanese maid culture kind of thing, and you kind of adjust that to the specific environment you set this character in. That keeps up this immersion about the people you meet because they need to feel authentic. And as much as like maid doesn't really, the Abyss doesn't really scream maid, it's also a thing that you obviously come in expecting if you're used to watching Japanese anime and know how often this theme is generally included. So I appreciate that they altered it to the way that it fits in relatively well. Because at this point he also kind of could be just a very servant looking scout, right? Like some Boy Scout or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's about it. I think we talked about most of the comments here. I'm gonna make a quick cut because I do need some food and drink. I do have a little bit something here. You can see that, but I'm gonna get myself another coffee. And then we're gonna get into episode 9. And if we can manage it tonight, we can also go into episode 10, and you're gonna see that next week. So Yeah. Either way, we are going into episode 9 in 3, a 2, a 1. Oh, and we are back with the soundtrack and with our parting. The dimensions are insane. And now we're looking into this steaming, bright, lit up chasm. And hand in hand we move on. The Great Fault, the 3rd layer. We're already at the 3rd layer, that's insane. Right, so we're going down small holes. Olsen gave us some hints. Interesting, we do have the second shot of this, like... the struggle of life. And we do love it, do we? I wonder. Intro time. It's interesting, I think somebody told me Rek and Rico are singing this song together. Very cool. Like the voice actors of Rek and Rico. And we're still in the overall Ozen arc, I guess. Oh, we're back at the orphanage. Very interesting. Cool, cool, cool. What is Nat doing? Oh, Shiggy being the know-it-all. Bro, this guy is gonna, one day he's gonna make a large invention and come down into the abyss. He's gonna be like, I'm right here. Wow, okay, so we are starting with the mental effects as we have foreshadowed and hinted to. Oh, look at the cute things. Look, it's a fat rat. I'm sorry. It's fine. Yeah, this is kind of how I imagined it. I wonder if we do see some animals that have mouths or orifices that can go into these holes, right? You would expect that they have evolved in such a way. She apologizes because she would have rather eaten them. What the fuck? That's kind of fucked up, Rico. Ozen in her usual mocking manner. But I didn't see that completely, but I think she said weaklings like us. So she does consider like some of the monsters and creatures to be stronger than a normal, even a white whistle. I wonder if Liza was called the Annihilator because she kind of didn't, I mean, respected those creatures, yes, but didn't consider any creature to be stronger than her in a way, and as such maybe hunted them. Oh, if their meat is tender and delicious, there must be something trying to eat them as well. It's very interesting how we do come into places that are like ruin-like structures. Whoa, holy shit. What? Holy shit, my mind is going overdrive thinking about the way this thing could have gotten there. Like, what? I mean, there must have been like some calamity that is monster dung. And bones. And eggs. Alright, time to get the fuck out of here. Come on, Rico. No, Reg, don't. Alright, maybe this is the time when Rico has to prove herself. Holy shit, Rico. Now a bigger fish is gonna come. The Crimson Split-Jaw. Oh, she's very observant. If it remembers them, maybe it's also a little bit afraid of Rex Beam. Oh my god, holy shit, they're just a fucking ball of... That's what you meant, Reg. Is this a strategy? Oh no. Alright. So they're just dumb. Alright. Fair enough. Happens to the best of us. Oh, she's gonna go out and explore, isn't she? Now, where did the little ones run off to? Takes knife. I'm so sorry, Reg. Bro's gonna wake up, he's gonna be full of mud, he's like, what the fuck happened? You had one job, Rico. You had one job. Oh, she's gonna get herself into trouble, isn't she? If this is the fruit, why don't the little ones go there? Why are they hidden in the cave? Why do they stay away from it? Oh, is this kind of some kind of carnivorous plant thing? Right, it lures you with the scent of fruit and then it... like a Venus flytrap. Alright, have fun with the digestive juices, Rico. Truly an Aaron Yeager moment. You're gonna give the poor thing a stomachache. Oh shit, Rico. Fucking murdered the thing. It's interesting though, it really loose, kind of wilt like a plant almost. Oh no. Is this a rabbit situation? Oh, Rico, you just keep getting yourself in trouble, aren't you? Yeah, they're kind of stupid, not gonna lie. That is a weird place. Kind of looks very futuristic almost. Like these pillars have been carved out of the stone. Alright. So what is she gonna do? I can't carry it for you, Mr. Frodo. but I can carry you. And there goes the puke. But we fight on, fight. Oh, hallucinations. Right? I didn't think it'd be this extreme. Wow. Okay. Is this the moment she passed out? Probably. Might be a dream. An impossibility, right? It's interesting because she always wanted to go down into the abyss, but now she's dreaming about going up again. I guess all the relationships she has and the dreams she has of becoming like her mother and being a great celebrated hero. That's probably that. Right? And her missing home as well. Right? Being homesick a little bit. Returning as the hero. But Reg's gone. Interesting. Reg is not in that fantasy. And Reg is a stronger pull than... I really wonder what connects them. I really wonder if this is... I mean, obviously it can just be a very strong bond. They hit it off immediately, they went through a lot, but it's very interesting how extremely attached she is to Reg right away. And she has that moment of realization. Oh no, it's the 𝐸𝐿𝐴. She's had enough, she doesn't even care anymore, right? At this point it's... You can only panic so much. Oh, Reg, what are you doing? I mean, she's happy, but... why take away her great moment? Stop teasing us. Oof. Come on, Joel, stop teasing me. I want to see Rico do something. I mean, she does things. She does a lot of things. She survived all this, right? And she climbed up that distance, but... Introspection through struggle. Look at that. Oh, and this is gonna... I mean, for you more on an emotional level, Reg, but yes. And she knows more about the Abyss, to be fair, than him. He does have conceptual things, but... Oh, they have a compass, interesting. Oh, okay, so it's the depth meter, right? 6.7. 6.7 is deep. What the hell is this? Oh, so the mushroom things are actually pools of waters? Oh yeah, we did see water coming from it, but I thought it was just raining, right? Like in the city in... what do you call it? In Hollow Knight, actually, there's the city where it's constantly raining. I thought it was some kind of deal like this, but this is interesting. It's like almost like onsen-like, it seems, right? Really, really cool. Really interesting. I didn't write anything down. Cool stuff. We're just gonna go through a little bit, talk. We do have a setup anyway, right? Because we started our next part of the journey, and now we have to reestablish what are the stakes, what are developments. There's been interesting developments with Rico now. It sounds so happy, right? Our little adventure trip down the hole of no return. And Rico dropping the flashlight is just fucking... No, it might not be the flashlight, it might actually be the thing she uses to carry the pickaxe in. Yeah, I think it's that. She dropped that. Well, great job. Great job, Rico. And here we are. Okay, I just clicked out of it, and I have to edit this. Great stuff. Here we are at below 6,000. I think Rex at 6,750, which is almost 7,000. We're at the lower edge, and we're looking at these weird fungus, these weird fungi kind of things that are pools of hot water, medicinal water. It's kind of green colorish, so it might be medicinal. It might also be poisonous or acid. So anything from hey, cool onsen to oh no, we're gonna melt. Neat. But yeah, quick cut, and then we're gonna talk about... Alright, we're back, and I don't need this anymore. Almost forgot. Sip on my coffee, and we talk. Yeah, we start our episode with a little small recap and heartfelt goodbyes between Rico and Marolk, especially Rico and Marolk and Regan Marolk, but also kind of just the crew in general. They see them off and heading into the not dark but light below, very lit up, which is interesting. On the one hand, you do have darkness, which a lot of people are afraid of, but in a way light can also be very scary, right? If you don't want to be seen, if you know there's a lot of strange and dangerous creatures down there, and you want to rather be sneaking around, it might be more beneficial for you if you're not actually seen. And if the light is just going all the way through, what are you gonna do, right? You're gonna search for the vents in true Metal Gear Solid fashion, and we do have a tunnel that Ozan recommended. As we kind of head down through that tunnel, we do hear the narrative once again, like talking about how humans make use of their wits and courage to brave the deepest challenges, right? How they're struggling and floundering and clinging to life for as long as they can. And isn't that a very, very, very human thing, but also a very animal thing, right? I mean, we humans are animals, right? We do cling to life. There's always something that we cling to, and our survival instincts are among the greatest, have to be, for us to get by in this world. And we do find reasons to survive, both on a purely emotional and nervous system level, but also on an intellectual level, right? We struggle together. We find ways to connect to one another, and that connection gives us strength, it gives us courage, and it gives us motivation to live on, to see another day with that person, or to protect that person, or... And we do see that theme going on later on with Rico when we get into the dream sequence. But let's go through this chronologically. We go past the intro, and we see a little bit of Shiggy and Nat and whatever, and they're looking over a map, and Shiggy figured out where they're probably going to be based on Rex's capabilities. And we do see Shiggy is actually a pretty smart guy, right? He calculated that all out, and he's like, they're probably going to be around there right now. And he was right, which is... Well, I mean, maybe he wasn't right. We don't know exactly if this is... if from a time frame perspective, this is happening at the same time. and we do know the deeper we go, the more likely it is that there's some time dilation effects going on. So as time goes on, we might get into the situation that while it is for us, the audience, presented as, oh, this is going on at the same time, it might not be going on at the same time frame, because the deeper we go, the more our time, like the slower our time itself runs, which is a very fascinating concept, because if we come back, maybe we're going to be surprised by it. I don't know if we're going to come back, right? But if we're going to come back, or if we meet people down the line, we might be surprised by how old they are, or by how much time actually passed since we've seen them, despite the fact that you can maybe calculate it a little bit. And I don't know how much. I don't think the time dilation thing is actually known that much on the surface. We didn't know anything beforehand. Riko wasn't spouting it. She could have easily found that as an explanation, being like, my mom is down there so long because time is different, but she wasn't. So it's not a known thing. And only probably White Whistle, maybe Black Whistles know about it because they've been this deep, and they, right? And they informed each other about it. And obviously the organization's probably going to know that too. We do have the unheard bell and whatever, which we did talk about in the past. I do wonder though, to jump back to the narrator for a second, I actually forgot to mention this. I had this thought, is the narrator actually Liza? I don't hear it yet. I'm going to be paying attention to it next time I hear the narrator, but it feels to me like it could be Liza, but Liza in the memories of the people sounds a lot more youthful, right? But who knows, right? It could be her voice these days, because a lot of the memories we saw of Liza were memories when Riko was a little kid. Then again, if time runs differently down there, then she might be at a similar age. So it doesn't necessarily have to be. Maybe the narrator is somebody else. I don't think it's Ozen, because Ozen has a very distinct way of speaking, and I don't hear that in the narrator. It could be some kind of chronicler that we meet down the line. It could be a character we've already met that later turns out to be to write down like the memoirs and whatever. But it's certainly a very interesting thing. I know it's not Riko and Reg, because I looked up voice actors and I did see the narrator was somebody different from Riko and Reg. But it's certainly but even then you can think about, like, it could be Riko in 50 years telling the story, right? Interesting thing to think about, because there's this almost this glee that the person, the narrator, has in her voice when she talks about these concepts, being like, but we love this cruel, harsh, unequal environment, talking about the abyss, talking about the love of the people, like the people around the abyss, how they are how they love, how they are drawn to the abyss, how they're almost obsessed with it, and they even love the bad aspects, quote unquote bad aspects or negative aspects about it. It's kind of like when you're working out really hard, or if you're braving a very hard challenge and you're like, I love it, come on, let's go. The more adversity I get, the more I'm just gonna try and push on and push through it, and when I accomplish it, it's gonna be even better. And this is kind of that philosophy in which I do read that. And it sounds like somebody who's very experienced, who might be a White Whistle, or somebody who's really engrossed in the culture of the abyss. So that would be definitely a thing that I could be expecting, that it's Liza or somebody else, or Riko in the future after she's been through her journey. Though she doesn't sound all that excited enough to be Riko, but maybe, who knows, Riko could mellow out when she gets older. Just keep that spirit, but have more of a calm demeanor. Yeah, we do have the squiggly things, which are absolutely cute and very, very adorable, but also kind of dumb, as we find out later. Squiggly things be very, very, very flat, very, very flat. I do love this animation. If we can go back for just a second. Looking at that, all right, I need to actually edit this, but it's fine. If we go by frame and look at how they kind of just scurry out of the hole, it's very natural seeming and like very, very cool and fluid. Just them reacting to the presence of a very irregular, like very thing that the creatures down there probably aren't as used to. I mean, it's a thing that they've seen before human, but it's certainly some reaction that you would see in wild animals, that they just scurry away if they don't know if it's a predator or not, but they kind of just stay at the borders trying to, because they're curious, obviously. And we do make the calculation to distract the big predators and drop down into the next hole, braving the challenge of possibly being affected by the curse, because that braving the challenge, because if we have to look for another path, we need to brave the challenge of going up again and being affected by the curse. That's what I meant. Very as always, Rico does show her wit here in just throwing out bait and knowing all the animals and knowing what they eat and knowing whatever. But we do see that as much as she knows about these things and actually can recognize them when she sees or detects them or whatever, it doesn't always help her, because she's being very brash and passionate. Too passionate. She doesn't think before she acts. She acts and then she thinks, oh shit, I forgot something, or oh shit, there's this thing, I didn't recognize it. She definitely has some kind of like attention deficit here. Like she does get tunnel vision whenever something excites her, or she's focused on a certain goal. But we do hear 𝐲𝐻 here saying that we weaklings I don't know if she says we weaklings, but it sounded to me like she said something along those lines. Weaklings like us are simply picked off and eaten because we can't just climb up the wall or fly, right? We don't have the capabilities of the apex predators of this environment. We're out of our depth, and as such, we do have to just find ways to skirt around like cowards. But she includes herself into that, so it's very interesting that she does have that. I mean, obviously she needs that awareness as a white whistle who has survived this multiple times, but it's very interesting that people like White, they're not gods, they're not super capable, they're just very skilled at what they do, and they know how to judge any situation that they come into, and they have a healthy dose of how do you say it? I just forgot the word. They have like a healthy dose of reservedness and care when it comes to encountering new situations, and they think about them before they decide what to do, and they obviously have a huge repertoire of memories and experiences that they can draw on to handle any given situation that they run into, which Reg and Rico do not have. These things are just searching their way through the abyss and finding their way into little crevices. That is, in my opinion, probably the reason why they survive or why they thrive in this environment, because the apex predators are very big and they can't go into the very, very small holes. So the little ones just scurry around there and pick off their food whenever they find the opportunity to do so. But for that, they need to be very observant. They need to be very small and quick, and that's what they are, and that's how they probably evolved to be in order to survive in this environment. And we do drop into this large wreck of a ship, and I'm just fucking flabbergasted because I don't know how it could have come here. I mean, I know we were like, I know the island and the abyss is set surrounded by an ocean, but and we do know that we're so deep down that some of the roots of the trees are actually growing into the ocean. But I can't really imagine how a ship that's actually sailing on the ocean at the top of the surface has come down here. I mean, the only thing that I can explain is that I can the kind of theorize is here that the sea level was a lot lower at some point, but even then you have to think about I mean, it could be an airship, maybe like Final Fantasy kind of ish, that you have an airship or something, and the airship kind of got into an accident or trouble or whatever, or got stranded somewhere here, or maybe the abyss at some point was actually below sea level, right? Maybe the abyss had a lot of water in it in the beginning, and people were able to sail on it at certain levels, and this ship got stuck at some point, either being like the sea level, either itself sunk or the sea level got lower and lower, and they had some wreck or whatever, and the ship was left there, or there was some kind of like unexplainable weird calamity, because we did see like there's a lot of trees that are fossilized, so I wonder if the ship is kind of semi-fossilized as well. But this is a very, very strange occurrence, and there's so many questions that come from that. How the fuck is there a ship in the middle of a cliff that is 4,000 meters deep? Just in the middle of it, it's just like random ship appears. All right, cool. I have 20 questions. Maybe more. And yeah, I guess this is some mystery left for later on. We do step into some dung of a predator, and 𝐿𝐸 even names it, I think. 𝐸𝐷𝐩𝐿𝐸. Not as big as a split jaw, but apparently relatively aggressive and a predator. And 𝐸𝐸 is obviously trying to defend 𝐸𝐸 here, and he's thinking about what Ozen said to him. And on the one hand, I do commend him, and I think it's great that he actually remembered the words, and that he's like, okay, I need to be careful. Is this really what I want to do? But then he remembers the later words that Ozen says, that in some cases you can't hesitate, and he's like, I can't hesitate, I'm going to do it. And then he makes the same mistake again, right? He gets to the point where, yes, I have this one threat in front of me, right? I fight it, and I was able to actually repel it, or in this case actually kill it. But now I woken up greater beasts on the outside, and the greater beast is actually a beast that remembers 𝐸𝐸 and 𝐸𝐸, because it's the exact one that 𝐸𝐸 hit with his incinerator, and interestingly enough, it's not dead. So it's a bigger fish, and 𝐸𝐸 knows that he can't shoot a second time, and he knows that he's gonna be down in 10 minutes. So what is he gonna do? He did the exact thing that Ozen warned him, right? But obviously, in some situations, you have to make a decision and then hope that everything is gonna be alright, and it's not always gonna be alright. So this is one of these things where I don't blame 𝐸𝐸 necessarily, but I think like you should have maybe thought about an alternate solution. They could have run away from this one as well. He could have tried to punch it away in some fashion, right? Just scare it off. But he decided to go for his decisive blow and eliminate the threat effectively, right? Make sure that it can't come after you, but now another thing is after you, and that is a thing you have to keep in mind. So they do run away, and 𝐸𝐸 hopes that they can get away before... Interesting that they kind of clutter around as such a weird ball of whatever. I wonder if there's some reason for that, like some explanation that we get down the line why they do this thing, or if there was something in the manga that kind of just explained it on the side, was like, okay, this is what... I'm sorry, but the mic... And they're like, this is okay, this is what they usually do, right? But it's very interesting. But as soon as they hear the guttural roar of the split jaw, they obviously all get really afraid and get the fuck out of there. And that opens up our passage. The split jaw can follow us, but and 𝐸𝐸 says, "Come on, 𝐸𝐸, all you have to do is stay here." But 𝐸𝐸's like, "I'm kind of hungry though." Promise, no. I promise, I'm gonna stay here. Promise. Anyway, let me just... You come along. 𝐸𝐸 always getting herself into more trouble than it's worth, honestly. And she's making herself exhausted, right? If she encounters a monster right now, she's gonna be fucking dead, because she can't run away. She can't even run away, and she can't leave 𝐸𝐸. So she should have just stayed there, but she didn't listen once again. Her curiosity, adventure spirit, and I think Rico actually has a little bit of the Dunning-Kruger effect going on, right? This thing that I already talked about a couple of times, where it's like, you know so much about a thing that you think you're an expert, but you're not quite an expert. And as such, there's often some misinformation or something that you don't know that is a crucial element of the situation that you're missing. Or even if you know everything, there's other external factors that you're not taking into account. But you have such a vast knowledge of these things that you're thinking you're not gonna be wrong, right? That you're not thinking of the possibility that there could be something coming up that you didn't foresee. And that is one of the problems that Rico has throughout the entire show so far. Now, obviously, Reg is kind of in the opposite direction in this specific case, because Reg has the problem that he's overthinking things and that he's always like, I'm not sure about it. I mean, in this case, just a couple of moments ago, he actually made a decision, and that's a good thing, right? You need to learn to make decisions. At the same time, he made the wrong decision again. So what is this going to teach him in the future? He's going to be even more anxious about making the wrong decision. He's going to be having even harder time to actually make the decision, because yes, he had this short success of, yeah, I was able to repel whatever, but then he passed out. And Rico not being able to actually defend herself, we see that later when the split jaw comes back up again and Reg actually saving her, is a natural reaction. At the same time, it is not only preventing Rico from having that success, right, herself. I mean, maybe she wouldn't be able to kill it or anything, but maybe she would have been able to repel it and just get it to go away because it hurts. Maybe she wouldn't have, but in the end, Reg coming in there is only going to reinforce Reg's tendency to try to baby Rico and protect her from anything that could come along. Because on the other hand, it's also gonna not teach Rico how to defend herself properly and not give her that critical success that she needs to make a development in that direction. But yeah, I mean, I just talked about it extensively. Yeah, here, Rico's brush is getting her into danger again. I was kind of like guessing that. I was like, okay, fruit, it smells like fruit, but there's no... But where would there be fruit? Like in the dark, deep caverns? I mean, on the other side, there could be like some kind of clearing. But I was pretty sure this is going to be a Venus flytrap kind of situation. And it kind of was. And I mean, even if that wasn't a plant, but it looked very much like a plant the way it wilted away. That's an artistic choice too. And we have a literal Aaron moment here. If you've seen Attack on Titan, you know what I mean. But Rico is actually able to defend herself and cut herself out of that thing, which is like, you do see that Rico can help herself and can get herself out of the situation without Reg being there. She is somewhat capable for that, right? She does have the survival skills. She has the know-how to know, yeah, a knife is gonna hurt the inside of the stomach. It's gonna be able to split it open and whatever. I can do that. Because she's not totally panicking. She's like, oh shit, I need to get out of here, right? But she's not lost in her panic. She knows what to do in this case. And then we have the thing wilting. But yeah, again, I don't know how dangerous these things are, but I assume if like thousands of these things are nibbling at you like little bunnies, you guys who have seen ReZero might have some trauma from that, but could get pretty dangerous. So she's obviously kind of scared and running away from them. And then we land in this weird place. I'm gonna be honest, this is a super weird place for me. I thought this place might have more significance, but I guess this is just a weird structure, and maybe down the line we kind of get to know what effect in the abyss creates such structures. Maybe not specifically that structure, but creates strange structures in the stone. Then again, I mean, it's possible I've seen something like this in natural rock formations before. I'm not sure. I mean, there's weird stuff in the world, you wouldn't believe it. So if you do know if something like this actually exists in our world and is a natural phenomenon, do let me know. I'm always interested in learning new stuff in that regard. But yeah, we that's an upward slope, and we do see the immense danger that the Curse of the Abyss has on us. And we do see it even more. Like I did realize that there was hallucinations. I didn't think they were this severe. And that's extreme, right? That's just a little slope. She's not just puking here, disgusting by the way, but she is effectively hallucinating audio and visual stimuli, and then her mom takes her, and this is very great artistic choice how it blends into white and it goes over into a full dream that she kind of implying she passed out. And the dream is her dream, right? Her goal, her desires. And she sees that she's being successful and being celebrated for making it down into the abyss and finding her mom. And she and her mom can come up and live happily. But then she suddenly realizes, shit, where's Reg? Right? That friend I made, that bond we forged throughout that admittedly short but very impressive time that we spent together. I don't want to... And we do have that theme returning that we had a couple of episodes ago where Reg was being hurt. If Reg isn't here, it doesn't make sense. There's no point of returning, right? Because her connection to Reg at this point is so strong that her friends and the bond she forged with them and the bond she has possibly with her mother, she doesn't have that strong a bond with her mother, but the bond she could have with her mother that she imagines in her head isn't as strong as the bond that Reg has with her. That right? Because on some level or another, they respond very well to each other emotionally. If that is them just being soulmates in a way, despite the fact that we're talking about a robot here, but we do see Reg is very human in his demeanor, his appearance, in everything. Or if this is actually a deeper thing that gets revealed down the line, that Reg has some specific kind of connection in terms of fate, destiny, or origin with Rico. We don't know. I mean, in theory, they're both relics of the Abyss because Rico died and then she was revived by the curse protecting vessel. In a way, she's not Rico anymore. She's at least not the original Rico that got born. She's now a child of the Abyss, although in a sense most of them are children of the Abyss, but you know, an actual relic of the Abyss, and Reg also is one. So I wonder if this has something to do with that, or if it's actually something that is connected to a general origin they both have that neither Rico nor Reg know about because Reg lost his memory, obviously, or if it, I don't know, there can be some weird things that are really out there, like crackpot, put on your tinfoil hat theory about how Liza built Reg for Rico or something. But obviously that is all kind of really speculation and up in the air here, but we do see there's a really strong bond, and whenever she's in trouble, whenever there's temptation or struggle, or whenever she's doubting herself, the thought about Reg and their bond is getting her back to reality. It's grounding her, and she does realize something in that moment. Reg has been protecting her throughout all of this journey. I mean, I'm sure she knew that he's been protecting her in certain circumstances and situations, but what she's realizing here is that she wouldn't have made it that far without him, and that a lot of times she got herself in trouble recklessly and Reg had to step in. And so far she's been kind of accepting this as something that comes along naturally, right? She's been kind of taking it for granted, and now she realizes, shit, this is something very significant, something very important, something that I have to recognize. And she tells him that later, but first we do have to face this big enemy, this 𝐸𝐷𝐻, and we do see once again Rico is not reckless in this situation. Rico is not reckless. There is a difference. She's not recklessly rushing into anything and thinking it's a piece of cake. She's in a very dangerous situation. She has to protect her friend, and this time she wants to protect him because she knows he's protected her so many times. So she's standing there with the scythe. She's been taught by Ozan somewhat, and we get teased with the Rico's gonna do something, and in the last minute Reg comes in, and I'm glad he saved her, but holy shit, show, can you stop teasing us? I mean, it's gonna come, we know that, but she throws Reg the pickaxe, and we're gonna go slay a 𝐸𝐷𝐻. Well, not slay, but I mean, that split jaw is scarred for life, I would assume. But yeah, 1 use down, only 2 or 3 to go, so very, very dangerous. And Reg thinks he wouldn't have gone so far without Rico with him. And I think on an emotional level, on a motivation level, on just like a level of bond, that is true. Because Reg is very anxious and whatever. And he's protecting Rico, yeah, in many situations, but also, first of all, his beam. He would have passed out multiple times. He could have gotten eaten, but Rico has her knowledge. Rico has her extensive knowledge about the Abyss and her intelligence that drives her forward, that makes her at least be able to somewhat survive. And also, just the mere fact that that Reg has somebody to protect, that Reg has an additional reason for going down into the Abyss beyond him finding himself, is also a very, very strong driving force for him, I think. So yeah, I totally agree. And then we do see the mushrooms at 6,750 feet, around that. I mean, I think the mushrooms are at 7,000. But it really looks like, the Goblet of Giants really looks like a lot of fungal structured trees that gather steaming hot onsens on top of them. Although, like I said, it could be acid as well. It could be like a rude awakening where we're like, oh yeah, let's go into the water. Holy shit, this thing is burning my flesh off. Yeah, it could also be poison, but I don't think... I mean, I think poison, you can't do that much with poison narratively as opposed to acid or hot steaming like medicinal waters or whatever. They could also have hallucinatory effects. Like, we saw that that only in the second or third layer these hallucinations are coming in, so it's very well possible that that might be an effect of whatever composition the air is made of, as opposed to just the depth. The depth might be adding that mental strain on people, right? That strain on the system in general, on the nervous system, and then we have these steaming things coming up, and yeah. Interesting also, could very well imagine that the force field directing the light down, but then having a water surface that might be reflecting the light back up, might be causing this lit up effect of the Great Fault that we saw when we were making our way down there. But yeah, next step unlocked. Goblet of Giants, we're already there. Holy shit. I do wonder what the second season is going to be like then, because we're not even halfway through the first season. I do assume, I can only assume that the second season is going to be very much exploring the lower levels, like probably the city and whatever comes down below. So what we know about the Abyss on the surface, and also what the show told us in the first or second episode, is only the tip of the iceberg, right? A very small peek into the first core of the anime, and after that it's gonna be completely blind and we don't know what's gonna be coming, and that is very fascinating and also exciting, because we don't know how deep it's gonna go, and we don't know how deep Liza went, right? So we do have so much more to explore down there that we do know absolutely nothing about, and it could be anything. And that's actually very well designed narrative structure from the author, just by putting this road ahead of us that we can look forward to, that we can speculate about, that we can be interested in, but also saying, okay, it's gonna be until whatever the first season, or volume 10. And after volume 10, I can basically do whatever the fuck I want, or I have time until then to think about the next parts of the Abyss, because I'm pretty sure the author knows a couple of key stations within the Abyss and key kind of areas within the Abyss that they want to explore, that they find very cool and interesting, that they thought of. But also, I do think he probably knows the end station as well, but anything in between he can be very creative with, and just leave his creative process to itself, and just kind of explore his own inner world as well, right? Because as you create a piece of work and a piece of art. I do notice that more and more the more I do stuff creatively. And I talk creatively, right? I'm not even an artist or a writer or whatever, but even doing like minimalistic creative things, it animates your creativity so much that you think about, I could be doing this, I could be doing this, this would be cool, this would be amazing. Sometimes you lose yourself like 3 or 4 hours. You do something and all you created was a small little thing, but you learned something new, you learned a new set of skills, or you learned a new interesting way to look at things, and you're like, holy shit, I can do so much with this. And I really like how they build it up so far. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting thing. So did I do Rex Rescue mushrooms? Yeah, I mean, I talked about most of these things. I really like the split jaw chase sequence, by the way. I'm not gonna go back to look at it specifically now. I'm gonna rewatch it at some point anyway, but I really did like that one. And here we have the split jaw actually in here. That's fucking foreshadowing, right? Here, to get it on the screen again. Great. I should have seen it coming. But that being said, guys, I think we're done. We're done for episode 9. I don't think I don't know if I'm gonna do episode 10. I might actually do it. And for that, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm gonna look at something special. What was I talking about in the beginning that I wanted to do? I wanted to look into something. We're gonna look into something. I don't know. I guess you have to be surprised in episode 10. But I'll see you next time. Please subscribe to my channel. Would be really cool if you want to see more videos, if you want to hear more discussions. I don't know how the format's gonna be yet. Obviously, depending on series, copyright, whatever, I might change up formats to time a reaction or whatever. Patreon is up, as you have probably, hopefully noticed at this point. I mean, you don't have to go to the Patreon, but I would really very much appreciate it. So far, we have Made in Abyss, and we do have 1 or 2 days early access for Frieren as well. Whenever I get them up and I get them ready, I'm like, okay, here you go, watch Frieren, and if I'm getting copyright issues or whatever, I can still fix it until the public release, which is kind of a relief for me. Other than that, yeah. I do just hope you enjoy the new lighting and the new editing format I'm gonna try here. My camera angle is always a little bit different, but I'm not gonna go into how precisely, right? I mean, if you like a certain choice in terms of my recordings or whatever I do, feel free to let me know. I always appreciate that. Other than that, I'll see you next time.